The first-class lounge at Dubai International Airport gleamed like a polished jewel, its marble floors reflecting the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. Lauren Mitchell, 42, sat poised on a buttery leather armchair, her diamond-encrusted watch catching the light as she adjusted her silk scarf with manicured fingers. Her honey blonde hair, highlighted to perfection, framed a face that radiated wealth and control. Every detail from her tailored Chanel blazer to her red-soled Louboutin heels crafted with the precision of a master sculptor. She sipped a glass of vintage champagne, its bubbles sharp against her tongue, and glanced at her reflection in the floor. Flawless, as always. Lauren's phone buzzed, a message from her assistant, Claire Thompson, flashing on the screen. Robertson deal meeting confirmed for tomorrow. Competitors pushing hard image is everything. Lauren's lips curved into a tight smile. The $200 million acquisition she was flying to London to finalize would cement her as a titan in the city's elite business circles, a name whispered with reverence at galas and boardrooms. She typed a brisk reply, "Make sure the press release is ready. No mistakes," and set the phone down, her eyes scanning the lounge with practiced disdain. The space was a sanctuary of privilege, plush seating arranged in discreet clusters. Buffet of caviar and truffle-infused delicacies, and floor-to-ceiling screens displaying flight statuses in elegant fonts. Attendants glided silently, offering hot towels and whispered courtesies, while passengers dressed in bespoke suits or designer athleisure murmured about markets and mergers. Lauren thrived here, surrounded by those who understood the currency of status, but her gaze snagged on a man across the lounge, an anomaly in this curated world. He wore faded jeans and a gray t-shirt, his scuffed leather laptop bag slung over a chair. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his stubble suggesting a disregard for grooming that bordered on offensive. "Who let him in here?" "Mrs. Mitchell?" a young attendant said with a reverent bow. "Your flight to London is ready for priority boarding." Lauren didn't respond, rising with the grace of a queen, her half-finished champagne abandoned on the table. A Louis Vuitton carry-on rolled silently behind her as she made her way to the exclusive boarding bridge, a private corridor shielding her from the chaos of economy passengers. She despised sharing space with those who didn't belong, people who clutched discount tickets and dreamed of lives they'd never touch. The first-class cabin of flight EK773 awaited, a cocoon of leather and luxury where she could strategize for tomorrow's deal. As she approached the gate, Lauren's phone buzzed again. Claire's voice crackled through a rushed call. "Lauren, I've got the dossier on Edward Harrison. He's on your flight seat 12C. Perfect chance to network." Lauren's pulse quickened. Edward Harrison, CEO of Harrison Capital, was a legend in investment banking, his firm a key player in her deal. A connection with him could tip the scales. "Good work, Claire," she said, her tone clipped. "But you sound exhausted. Don't let me down tomorrow." A pause, then Claire's strained reply. "I'm on it, Lauren. Always." The call ended, and Lauren ignored the faint edge in Claire's voice. Assistants were replaceable. Her reputation was not. She handed her boarding pass to the gate agent, her eyes drifting back to the lounge through the glass partition. The man in jeans was gathering his bag, checking a crumpled boarding pass. Lauren's lip curled. Surely. He was headed to economy, some tech worker who'd snuck into the lounge on a fluke. The thought of him anywhere near her cabin was unthinkable. She stepped onto the boarding bridge, the cool air of the tunnel brushing her skin, and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. This flight was more than a journey. It was a stage, and Lauren Mitchell always played the lead. The first-class cabin welcomed her with the familiar scent of polished wood and fresh orchids. Spacious seats, each a private suite, lined the cabin, their privacy screens promising solitude. A flight attendant, her name tag reading Margaret Evans, directed Lauren to her window seat, 1-2A, with a practiced smile. "Can I get you anything before takeoff, Mrs. Mitchell?" she asked. Lauren settled into the plush leather, her carry-on stowed by an unseen hand. "A glass of your finest champagne," she said without looking up, her fingers already tapping out a message to Claire about Harrison's dossier. As she typed, movement in her peripheral vision made her pause. The man from the lounge, the one in jeans and a t-shirt, was approaching the seat next to hers. 1-2B. Lauren's stomach lurched. His laptop bag, its corners frayed, swung as he checked his boarding pass, his casual shoes scuffing the pristine carpet. This couldn't be right. First-class tickets cost thousands, a price reserved for those who'd earned their place. Was he lost? Upgraded by some airline error? Or worse, had he scraped together miles for a taste of a world he didn't belong in? Lauren's fingers tightened around her phone, her pulse quickening. She'd paid for exclusivity, for a space free of people like him. Across the aisle, she spotted Edward Harrison, his silver hair and bespoke suit unmistakable, reviewing documents with the air of a man who owned the room. This was her chance to shine, to secure his attention, and she wouldn't let some misplaced passenger ruin it. She pressed the call button, her voice sharp as she summoned Margaret. "Excuse me," she said, loud enough for heads to turn. "There's been a mistake. This man clearly doesn't belong in first class." The man paused, his dark eyes flickering toward her for a moment before returning to his bag. There was a calmness in his posture, a quiet confidence that grated on Lauren's nerves. Little did she know, the unassuming figure beside her was about to unravel her carefully curated world, and the 8-hour flight ahead would become the most humbling lesson of her life. The first-class cabin of Flight EK-773 enveloped Lauren Mitchell in a cocoon of luxury, its polished wood paneling and soft leather seats a stark contrast to the chaos she imagined in economy. She reclined in seat 1-2A, her window offering a glimpse of Dubai's glittering tarmac, and sipped her champagne, the glass chilled to perfection. At 42, Lauren had mastered the art of commanding spaces like this, her tailored Chanel blazer and Louboutin heels signaling a status few could match. This flight to London wasn't just travel, it was a chessboard, and she intended to play her pieces flawlessly, starting with Edward Harrison, the investment titan seated across the aisle in 12C. Lauren's phone buzzed with a message from her assistant, Claire Thompson. Harrison's dossier sent. Focus on his Asian market expansion key talking point. Lauren's lips curved. A conversation with Edward could secure his firm's backing for her $200 million deal, a coup that would echo through London's elite circles. She glanced at him, his silver hair catching the cabin's soft lighting as he reviewed documents, his bespoke suit a testament to his power. This was her moment. But as she rehearsed her opening line, movement beside her shattered her focus. The man from the lounge, the one in faded jeans and a gray t-shirt, approached seat 1-2B, his scuffed leather laptop bag swinging as he checked his boarding pass. Lauren's stomach churned. His presence in the lounge had been an annoyance, but here, in her cabin, it was an outrage. His dark hair was tousled, his stubble a deliberate affront to the polished world of first-class travel. Surely this was a mistake, an economy passenger lost, or, worse, an undeserving upgrade. She pressed the call button, her manicured nails tapping impatiently. A flight attendant, her name tag reading Margaret Evans, appeared, her smile professional but warm. "Is there a problem, Mrs. Mitchell?" she asked, her voice calm despite the edge in Lauren's posture. "Yes, there's a mix-up," Lauren said, her tone sharp enough to draw glances from nearby passengers. "This gentleman," she gestured at the man, who was stowing his bag in the overhead compartment, "clearly doesn't belong in first class. I assume he's wandered into the wrong cabin." Her voice carried deliberate, ensuring everyone including Edward, heard her authority. The man paused, his dark eyes flickering toward Lauren for a moment before returning to his task. There was a quiet confidence in his movements, a steadiness that grated on her nerves. Margaret checked his boarding pass with a practiced glance. "Everything's in order, Mrs. Mitchell," she said. "Mr. Brooks is correctly seated in 1-2B. "That's impossible," Lauren scoffed, loud enough for heads to turn. She lowered her voice to what she thought was discreet, but was anything but. "Look at him. Did he use miles? Or is this some charity upgrade program I haven't heard of?" A few passengers shifted uncomfortably, but the man, Mr. Brooks, apparently seemed unfazed, settling into his seat and pulling out a MacBook adorned with stickers from tech conferences and startups. The sight confirmed Lauren's suspicions. He was some low-level IT worker who'd lucked into a seat he didn't deserve. "I paid for my ticket, ma'am," he said quietly, his voice carrying an unexpected hint of authority that Lauren chose to ignore. He opened his laptop, its screen flashing with what looked like financial projections, and began typing. "Well, that's precisely my point," Lauren continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "First class on this airline costs thousands. Surely someone with your modest means would be more comfortable in economy among your peers." She flashed a smile, expecting agreement from the cabin, but met only awkward silence. Edward Harrison cleared his throat across the aisle, his expression unreadable, and Lauren's confidence wavered. She'd meant to impress him, not alienate him. Margaret's smile didn't falter, but her eyes held a flicker of disapproval. "I assure you, all passengers are seated according to their tickets," she said. "Can I get you another champagne, Mrs. Mitchell?" Lauren waved her off, her cheeks flushing as she realized the exchange hadn't gone as planned. She pulled out her phone, snapping a discreet photo of Brooks and texting it to Claire. "Can you believe this? Standards have slipped." Looking at other airlines for the return. As the plane taxied, Lauren tried to pivot, turning her attention to Edward. "Mr. Harrison," she called, her voice honeyed. "I've been meaning to discuss your firm's expansion into Asia. I hear your quarterly projections were stellar." She emphasized his name, signaling familiarity, but Edward's response was curt. "I don't discuss business on flights, Mrs. Mitchell," he said, returning to his documents. The rebuff stung, and Lauren's smile tightened. She couldn't afford to lose this chance, not with Claire's warning about competitors circling her deal. Brooks, meanwhile, plugged in AirPods and took a quiet call, his voice low but clear. "Yes, the merge is on track." "No, keep the current staff. Their expertise is critical." Lauren rolled her eyes, assuming he was posturing some middle manager playing in importance. She leaned toward him, her tone mocking. "Trying to sound like a big shot, Mr. Brooks?" "My assistant does that. Thinks a loud call makes him a player." She expected a reaction, but Brooks merely ended his call and resumed typing, his calm indifference infuriating her further. Across the aisle, a young woman in a sharp blazer, Jessica Lee, according to her name tag, watched the exchange with a faint smile, her tablet open to a tech news site. Lauren didn't notice, too focused on salvaging her image. She pulled up a photo on her phone, angling it to show Brooks, her at a Monaco yacht party, surrounded by tycoons. "This is the world I move in," she said, loud enough for Edward to hear. "Connections matter. I doubt you'd recognize anyone." "Here." Brooks glanced at the photo, his expression neutral. "Interesting," he said, pointing to a man in the background. "That's Marcus Chung, right? I heard his company's hitting some turbulence." Lauren's smirk faltered. How did he know Marcus, let alone his company's troubles? She recovered quickly, laughing. "Oh, you read the tabloids. Cute." As the cabin lights dimmed for takeoff, Lauren leaned back, her mind racing. Brooks was an irritation, a blemish on her perfect flight, but she wouldn't let him derail her. She'd charm Edward, secure her deal, and leave this nobody in her dust. Little did she know, the man in seat 12B was about to turn her world upside down, and the lessons waiting in the skies would redefine everything she thought she knew about class. The first-class cabin of Flight EK773 hummed with the gentle drone of engines at cruising altitude, its opulent interior a stage for Lauren Mitchell's carefully choreographed performance. She reclined in seat 12A, her champagne glass empty, but her resolve brimming, determined to salvage the flight's potential despite the irritation in seat 12B. Nathan Brooks, the man in faded jeans and a gray t-shirt, typed on his sticker-covered MacBook, his calm indifference a splinter under her polished exterior. Lauren's mission was twofold: humiliate this interloper and charm Edward Harrison, the investment titan in 12C, whose backing could seal her $200 million deal. She wouldn't let a nobody derail her. Lauren's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant, Claire Thompson. Competitors meeting with Robertson's board tomorrow. They're pushing a lower bid, but stronger PR. We need Harrison. The message tightened Lauren's jaw. Her deal was slipping, and Edward's curt dismissal earlier stung. She glanced at him across the aisle, his silver hair bent over a tablet, his bespoke suit a reminder of the world she belonged to. She needed to act, and Brooks' presence was a distraction she couldn't tolerate. "Mr. Brooks," Lauren said, her voice loud enough to carry, "you seem awfully busy on that colorful laptop." She gestured at the tech conference stickers, her smile venomous. "What's it this time? Troubleshooting someone's printer from economy?" A few passengers glanced up, their expressions a mix of amusement and discomfort. Nathan's fingers paused, but his dark eyes remained fixed on his screen, displaying what looked like complex financial projections. "Just work," he said mildly, resuming his typing. The brevity of his response infuriated Lauren. She leaned closer, her tone dripping with condescension. "Work? Oh, bless your heart. My assistant tries that, making calls to sound important. But in my world, real players don't need to play act." She flashed a photo on her phone, angling it for Edward to notice. Her at an economic forum flanked by tycoons. "This is what actual business looks like." Nathan glanced at the photo, his expression neutral. "Looks like Marcus Chun's." "There," he said, nodding at a figure in the background. "His company's navigating some rough waters, isn't it?" Lauren's smirk faltered. Marcus's troubles weren't public knowledge. How did this man know? She laughed, masking her unease. "Reading gossip blogs, are you? How quaint." Across the aisle, Jessica Lee, a young woman in a sharp blazer, watched with a faint smile, her tablet open to a tech news site. Lauren didn't notice, too focused on her performance. She turned to Edward, raising her voice. "Mr. Harrison, I was just telling Claire about your Asian market strategy. Brilliant move. I'd love your thoughts on my firm's expansion plans." Edward looked up, his expression cool. "I'm not here for shop talk, Mrs. Mitchell," he said, returning to his tablet. The second rebuff stung, and Lauren's cheeks flushed, but she pressed on, desperate to regain control. Margaret Evans, the head flight attendant, approached with lunch menus, her demeanor polished but warm. "Would you like the wine pairing?" "Suggestions, Mr. Brooks?" she asked, addressing Nathan first. Lauren seized the opportunity, letting out a sharp laugh. "Oh, don't bother with the wine list, Margaret. I'm sure he'd prefer whatever beer's on hand." She turned to the cabin, as if sharing a joke. "Some people aren't used to distinguishing a Bordeaux from a Burgundy, you know." Asterisk. A few passengers coughed awkwardly, but Jessica's smile widened, her fingers tapping her tablet. Edward's frown deepened, his disapproval palpable. Nathan, unfazed, studied the menu. "The 2010 Chateau Margaux, please," he said, his casual confidence startling Lauren. That wine cost $800 a bottle, How could he know it, let alone order it so effortlessly? "Good choice, sir," Margaret said, her tone subtly warmer toward Nathan than Lauren. Lauren recovered, her voice saccharine. "How amusing. My last assistant tried impressing clients like that, ordered an expensive wine, thinking it made him sophisticated. We let him go, of course. Appearances matter in my circles." She adjusted her scarf, glancing at Edward for approval, but he remained engrossed in his work, ignoring her. Nathan took a sip of water, his expression unreadable. "And what circles are those, Mrs. Mitchell?" "The ones where deals are all about appearances, not substance." The question, posed with gentle curiosity, cut deeper than Lauren expected. She waved dismissively. "You wouldn't understand. When you're handling multi-million-dollar negotiations, every detail counts. The right clothes, the right connections." She swiped to another photo, this one from a Monaco yacht party. "This is the world that matters." Jessica, pretending to read, stifled a chuckle, her tablet now showing a profile on Nathan Brooks, though Lauren didn't notice. Nathan's phone buzzed, and he slipped in an AirPod, his voice low but clear. "Yes, the merger's solid. No layoffs, their expertise. Is our edge?" Lauren rolled her eyes, assuming he was posturing. "Middle management, right?" she said loudly. "My firm's full of wannabes like you, pretending to call the shots." The cabin's atmosphere thickened, passengers exchanging glances. Margaret returned with the wine, pouring Nathan's Chateau Margaux with care. Lauren, seizing another chance, made a show of discussing her meal preferences. "I'll have the caviar starter, Margaret, but ensure it's perfectly chilled. My personal chef insists presentation is everything." She glanced at Nathan, expecting a pedestrian order, but he chose the same caviar with a simple "thank you," his humility jarring against her theatrics thought as lunch service began. A commotion interrupted the cabin's rhythm. A junior flight attendant tripped, a glass of red wine tumbling toward the floor. Nathan rose instantly, steadying the attendant and offering his napkin, his action swift and unassuming. "You okay?" he asked, ensuring she hadn't hurt herself. The gesture, performed without fanfare, drew nods from Jessica and a raised eyebrow from Edward. Lauren, however, saw an opening. "Playing hero to the staff," she said, her voice carrying. "How predictable. People like you should know your place. There's a natural order. Those who serve and those who lead." Her words hung in the air, the cabin falling silent. Jessica's fingers froze on her tablet, and Edward's pen stopped mid-note, his disapproval now unmistakable. Nathan returned to his seat, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. "And where do you place kindness in that order, Mrs. Mitchell?" he asked, his tone mild but piercing. Lauren opened her mouth to retort, but Margaret's return with the appetizers cut her off. The flight stretched on, and Lauren's words, sharp as knives, were carving a path she couldn't yet see, one that would lead to her unraveling. The first-class cabin of Flight EK773 shimmered with understated elegance, its soft lighting casting a glow on the polished wood and leather. But the air was thick with tension, Lauren Mitchell's sharp words lingering like a storm cloud over. Seat 12A. She leaned back, her silk scarf perfectly draped, her confidence a brittle mask as she plotted her next move. Nathan Brooks, the man in faded jeans beside her in 12B, was an affront to her curated world, his quiet typing on a sticker-covered MacBook a mockery of her carefully crafted superiority. Across the aisle, Edward Harrison, the investment titan she needed to impress, remained aloof, his silver hair bent over documents. Lauren's phone buzzed with a text from her assistant, Claire Thompson. Robertson boards wavering. Harrison's word could clinch it. The pressure was mounting, and Nathan's presence was a distraction she couldn't afford. Lauren adjusted her Chanel blazer, her voice carrying a practiced sweetness. "Mr. Harrison," she called, "I was just saying how your firm's Asian expansion mirrors my own strategy. We should discuss synergies in London." Edward's response was a curt nod, his eyes never leaving his tablet. Her smile tightened, but she pressed on, turning to Nathan with a barbed laugh. "Of course, some people wouldn't understand synergies. What's your little startup working on, Mr. Brooks? Fixing Wi-Fi for coffee shops?" Nathan's fingers paused on his keyboard, his dark eyes meeting hers with a calm that unnerved her. "Something a bit bigger," he said, his tone mild but edged with something she couldn't place. Before she could retort, Margaret Evans, the head flight attendant, approached, her demeanor subtly deferential. "Mr. Brooks," she said, her voice warm, "the captain would be honored if you'd visit the cockpit during the flight. He mentioned your last discussion on predictive maintenance was insightful." Lauren froze, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. "The captain? Predictive maintenance?" Her mind scrambled, a vague memory surfacing. A Forbes article about an airline CEO who dressed down to evaluate service. Nathan Brooks? The name tugged at her, but she dismissed it, laughing sharply. "Oh, how charming. The captain's giving tours to tech enthusiasts now?" Margaret's smile didn't waver, but her eyes held a flicker of reproach. "Mr. Brooks is a valued guest, Mrs. Mitchell. I'll let the captain know your decision, sir." Nathan nodded, his expression unreadable. "I'll pass for now, Margaret, but tell him I appreciate it." The exchange sent a ripple through the cabin. Jessica Lee, the young tech journalist in a nearby seat, tapped her tablet furiously, her faint smile now a knowing grin. Edward Harrison looked up, his interest piqued. "Nathan Brooks," he said, leaning forward, his voice warm with recognition. "I didn't realize it was you. Your acquisition of those European routes was brilliant, game-changing for the industry." The cabin seemed to tilt Lawrence, breath-catching as the pieces snapped into place. Nathan wasn't some IT worker. He was Nathan Brooks, CEO and majority shareholder of the airline they were flying on, a titan who'd revolutionized luxury air travel. Her cheeks burned. Each of her insults were playing like a cruel montage. The wine jibes, the economy barbs, the condescending lectures about her world. She'd spent hours belittling a man who owned the plane. Nathan closed his laptop, his calm gaze meeting hers. "You seem surprised, Mrs. Mitchell," he said, his tone gentle but piercing. "Would knowing who I am have made my seat more acceptable to you?" The question hung like a guillotine. Passengers shifted, their whispers a soft chorus of judgment. Jessica's tablet glowed with a draft article, its headline ominous, entitled "Exec's First Class Fiasco." Lauren stammered, her polish cracking. "Mr. Brooks, I had no idea. I've been under stress with a major deal. If I'd known you owned the airline, would my humanity have been worth more?" Nathan interrupted, his voice steady but sharp. "You've made it clear what you value: appearance, status, connections. But class isn't about where you sit." The cabin fell silent, Edward's pen frozen mid-note, his disapproval now a tangible weight. Jessica's fingers flew, capturing every word. Lauren's throat tightened, her mind racing. Her deal depended on Harrison's support, but her behavior had alienated him. Worse, Jessica's article could tank her reputation, costing her the Robertson contract. She forced a smile, her voice trembling. "I'm mortified, truly. My company has a robust diversity program. I oversee it myself. Perhaps we could discuss partnerships? Our travel budget's over $10 million. Nathan glanced at her business card, but didn't take it. "Interesting," he said. "Would those partnerships prioritize executives' comfort while junior staff fly economy? You mentioned a natural order. I'm curious how that works." He quoted her own words, each syllable a nail in her coffin. Passengers exchanged knowing looks. their phones discreetly angled to record her unraveling. Margaret returned, her tablet displaying a passenger manifest. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, her tone professional but firm, "we've received complaints about your conduct. It's disrupting the cabin." Lauren's heart pounded. Complaints? She'd only been asserting her place. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, her voice rising. "I was making conversation." Edward spoke, his voice cold. "Conversation? You've spent hours humiliating someone you misjudged, then tried to network your way out of it. I've seen enough corporate arrogance to recognize it." His words were a death knell, his influence slipping from her grasp. Nathan remained silent. Reviewing documents, Margaret handed him quarterly service reports, his signature scrawled with ease. Lauren's world crumbled, the weight of her misjudgments suffocating. She'd mocked a man who knew her crew by name, who shaped industries while she chased appearances. The flight stretched on, and the truth, now broken open, promised consequences she couldn't yet fathom. In seat 1-2, Lauren clutched her champagne glass, its contents untouched since the bombshell revelation that Nathan Brooks, the man she'd mocked in faded jeans, was the CEO of the airline. Her cheeks burned, each of her insults about his clothes, his place, his supposed poverty replaying like a relentless loop. Across the aisle, Edward Harrison, the investment titan she'd hoped to impress, exchanged warm words with Nathan, their discussion of aviation strategies a stark reminder of her misjudgment. The cabin's whispers and discreet phone cameras amplified her dread. Jessica Lee, the tech journalist, was drafting an article that could torch her $200 million deal. Margaret Evans, the head flight attendant, approached with a tablet, her professional demeanor now edged with steel. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, her voice calm but unyielding, "we've received multiple complaints about your disruptive behavior. For passenger comfort, we need to reseat you for the remainder of the flight." Lauren's heart plummeted, the words slicing through her fragile composure. "Reseat?" She glanced at Nathan, expecting intervention, but he reviewed documents, his expression neutral. "This is outrageous," Lauren said, her voice rising an octave, drawing more eyes. "I was making conversation. Surely this doesn't warrant," she faltered, aware of the cabin's collective gaze. Edward Harrison looked up, his expression cold. "You weren't conversing," he said. "You spent hours humiliating someone you misjudged, then tried to talk your way out when you learned who he was. That's not conversation, it's arrogance." Lauren's throat tightened, her manicured nails digging into her palms. Jessica's tablet glowed with her article, its headline now visible: "Exec's First-Class Fiasco, a Lesson in Hubris." The viral potential was catastrophic. Her deal with the Robertson board, already shaky, couldn't survive a public scandal. "Mr. Brooks," she said, turning to Nathan, her voice pleading, "I've apologized. Surely we can resolve this reasonably." Nathan's dark eyes met hers, calm but unflinching. "I trust my crew to handle passenger issues, Mrs. Mitchell. They're trained to prioritize comfort and safety, not my personal preferences." His words, delivered without malice, underscored her irrelevance in this moment. Margaret consulted her tablet. "We've arranged a seat in economy, row 47, middle. Please gather your belongings." Lauren's world tilted. Economy? A middle seat? She'd spent decades curating a life of exclusivity, avoiding the cramped chaos she associated with ordinary people. "You can't mean economy," she whispered, her voice trembling. Margaret's smile remained professional. "It's that or an unscheduled landing to remove you from the flight, which would delay everyone. Your choice." The cabin was silent, passengers openly watching, some recording. Lauren's Louis Vuitton carry-on, once a symbol of her status, felt like an anchor as Margaret's assistant retrieved it. She rose on shaking legs, her Chanel blazer suddenly stifling. The walk to economy was a gauntlet, past Edward's disapproving stare, Jessica's knowing smirk, and the young professionals whispering, "Karma's real." In business class, heads turned, the news of her demotion already spreading. By the time she reached row 47, wedged between a snoring teenager and a chatty grandmother, Lauren felt stripped bare, her carefully crafted image in tatters. The economy seat was claustrophobic, the tray table scratched, the air heavy with the scent of instant coffee and recycled air. The teenager's elbow jutted into her side, and the grandmother launched into a monologue about her grandchildren. Lauren stared at her phone, the photo she'd sent Claire mocking Nathan's appearance, now a cruel irony. His casual confidence, his scuffed laptop bag, weren't signs of inferiority, but of a man secure enough to need no validation. Her own boasts, yacht parties, imaginary helicopters felt hollow, a performance for an audience that no longer cared. A text from Claire. Buzzed. Jessica Lee's article is trending. Robertson board spooked might pull out. Lauren's stomach churned. The scandal wasn't just personal. It threatened her company, her legacy. She typed a frantic reply, call the board, spin this as a misunderstanding, but her hand shook. Doubt creeping in. Was this who she'd become? A woman who mocked others to feel superior, only to lose everything? Hours passed, the flight a blur of discomfort and reflection. The drink cart skipped her, the crew's glances sharp with disdain. Lauren's mind replayed Nathan's question. Would my humanity have been worth more? She'd built her life on appearances, but what had it cost her? The grandmother offered her a mint, a small kindness that stung more than the crew's neglect. Lauren accepted it, her thank you barely audible, a crack in her armor. As the plane began its descent into London, a junior flight attendant approached, her expression neutral. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is for you," she said, handing over a sealed envelope embossed with the airline's logo. Lauren's pulse quickened. Was it a ban? A lawsuit? She opened it with trembling fingers, revealing a handwritten note on corporate letterhead. "Mrs. Mitchell, true success isn't measured by how we treat those who can benefit us, but by how we treat those we think can't. Our airline runs a mentorship program for underprivileged youth in aviation and business. Your expertise could make a difference if you're willing to learn as much as you teach. The best view isn't from first class, but from helping others rise. Contact Margaret for details." Nathan Brooks Lauren read the note twice, her vision blurring. Instead of punishment, Nathan offered redemption, a chance to rewrite her story. She looked at the grandmother, still chattering, and the teenager, now awake and scrolling on his phone. These were the people she despised, yet their ordinary lives held a warmth her world lacked. The envelope felt heavy, a lifeline she wasn't sure she deserved. As the plane taxied to the gate, Lauren sat still, the note in her lap, grappling with a choice that could change everything or leave her clinging to a life that no longer fit. The wheels of flight EK773 touched down at London Heathrow with a jolt, pulling Lauren Mitchell from the fog of her thoughts. In row 47, wedged between a snoring teenager and a talkative grandmother, she clutched Nathan Brooks' handwritten note, its words etched into her mind. The best view isn't from first class, but from helping others rise. The economy cabin, with its scratched tray tables and stale air, had been a prison for the final hours of the flight, each moment a reminder of her fall from grace. Her Chanel blazer felt like a costume, her diamond-encrusted watch a mockery of the status she'd clung to. The viral article by Jessica Lee, XX First-Class Fiasco, loomed like a guillotine, threatening her $200 million deal and her carefully curated reputation. As passengers surged toward the exit, Lauren lingered, the weight of Nathan's offer anchoring her to the middle seat. She'd mocked him as a nobody, only to learn he was the CEO of the airline, a man whose quiet confidence and empathy exposed her arrogance. His note wasn't a reprimand, but an invitation to mentor underprivileged youth in aviation and business. A chance to redeem herself, yet doubt gnawed at her. Could she, Lauren Mitchell, who built her life on appearances, step into a world of humility? And at what cost to her pride, her career? The cabin emptied, and Lauren gathered her Louboutin carry-on, its wheels catching on the worn carpet. The walk through business class drew stares, passengers whispering about her demotion. At the jet bridge, she spotted Nathan Brooks helping an elderly woman with her luggage, his faded jeans and gray t-shirt unchanged, his ease a stark contrast to her unraveling. He didn't glance her way, and she was grateful facing him now would be unbearable. Margaret Evans, the head flight attendant, waited at the gate, her professional demeanor softened by a hint of warmth. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, holding out a business card, "Mr. Brooks asked me to give you this. It's for the mentorship program." Lauren took the card, her fingers trembling. The airline's logo gleamed beside a contact number and the words community engagement. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "After how I behaved, why offer me anything?" Margaret's eyes held a story Lauren couldn't yet read. 8 years ago, I was working 3 jobs to support my sick mother, she said. Mr. Brooks found me in a community program, funded my training, and wrote my recommendation for Stanford. I'm head purser now, finishing my MBA. He believes everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story. The revelation stunned Lauren. Margaret, poised and commanding, had risen from struggles Lauren had never imagined. The program's in East London, Margaret added. Saturdays. Teenagers from tough backgrounds. They need someone with your business acumen, if you're willing to learn as much as you teach. Lauren slipped the card into her purse, her throat tight. Thank you, she managed, the words foreign on her tongue. Margaret nodded and turned to assist another passenger, leaving Lauren to navigate the terminal alone. Her phone buzzed with a voicemail from Claire Thompson. Her assistant's voice strained. Lauren, Jessica's article is everywhere. The Robertson board spooked. They're leaning toward the competitor. I've scheduled a crisis meeting tomorrow, but we need a miracle. Call me. The message was a gut punch. Her company, her legacy, teetered on the brink, and her own actions had pushed it there. Asterisk outside, the London dawn was gray, the air heavy with drizzle. Lauren's driver, accustomed to her brisk demands, opened the car door, but she hesitated. Watching Nathan and Edward Harrison stride through the terminal, deep in conversation about sustainable aviation. Their ease, their purpose, contrasted sharply with her isolation. She slid into the car, the leather seat cold against her skin, and opened her phone to the photo she'd sent Claire, mocking Nathan's appearance. His scuffed laptop bag, his casual confidence, now screamed authenticity, a quality she'd traded for appearances in her Mayfair penthouse. Lauren sank into a velvet armchair, the city skyline muted through floor-to-ceiling windows. Bills and contracts littered her desk, but her eyes fell on Nathan's note, its weight disproportionate to its size. She Googled him, her fingers shaking. Articles flooded the screen. Nathan Brooks, airline visionary, revolutionizes luxury travel. CEO's low-key style hides high-impact leadership. One piece detailed his habit of flying incognito to evaluate service, a strategy learned from his father, a pilot who valued every employee's role. Another mentioned his philanthropy, hospital wings, scholarships, youth programs. Lauren's stomach churned. She'd lectured a man who'd built an empire on substance, not show. Her phone rang Claire again. Lauren, the board's demanding a statement by noon, she said, her voice frayed. They're saying your behavior reflects poorly on the company. If we lose this deal, we're looking at layoffs. The word layoffs hit like a slap. Lauren's firm employed hundreds of people like Claire, who'd endured her demands for years. "I'll handle it," Lauren said, but her voice lacked conviction. She hung up, staring at Margaret's card. The mentorship program was a leap into the unknown, a public admission of fault that could further tarnish her image. Yet clinging to her old ways had led her to a crumbling deal and a trending scandal. She thought of Margaret's story, of Nathan's quiet help to an elderly passenger, of the grandmother's mint in economy. These were acts of humanity she'd dismissed, yet they held a power her wealth couldn't match. Her pride screamed to fight the scandal, to spin the narrative, but a quieter voice, one she barely recognized, urged her to try something new. She dialed Claire. "Push the meeting to tomorrow," she said. "I'm handling something else today." By noon, Lauren stood outside a community center in East London, its brick facade a far cry from her Mayfair penthouse. Her blazer felt out of place, her heels unsteady on the uneven pavement. Inside, voices echoed, teenagers laughing, arguing, dreaming. She clutched Margaret's card, her heart pounding. The scandal, the deal, her reputation, all hung in the balance. But Nathan's note had cracked open a door, and for the first time in years, Lauren felt the pull of something beyond herself. She took a deep breath and stepped inside, ready to face a room of skeptical faces and, perhaps, a version of herself she'd forgotten existed. The community center in East London buzzed with the chaotic energy of teenagers, their voices a mix of bravado and nervous excitement as they shuffled into the classroom. Lauren Mitchell, 6 months removed from her humiliating demotion on flight, EK 773, stood at the front, her tailored blazer swapped for a simple navy sweater, her Louboutin heels replaced by practical flats. At 42, she was no longer the polished executive who'd mocked Nathan Brooks in first class, but a mentor in his airline's program for underprivileged youth, teaching business and aviation to kids from tough backgrounds. Her journey here had been rocky, each step a battle against her pride, but the faces before her, eager, skeptical, hopeful, made it worth it. Lauren adjusted a stack of handouts, her hands steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. The room, with its peeling paint and mismatched chairs, was a far cry from her Mayfair penthouse, but it felt more like home than her old boardrooms ever had. She glanced at the clock. 10 a.m. Saturday. 6 months ago, she'd been reeling from Jessica Lee's viral article, Exec's First-Class Fiasco, which had nearly cost her a $200 million deal with the Robertson board. Nathan's note, offering her a chance to mentor, had been a lifeline she'd almost ignored. Now, standing before 15 teenagers, she was rewriting her story. "All right, everyone," Lauren began, her voice clear but warmer than it had been in years. "Today, we're pitching business ideas. Think big, but keep it real. Your plan needs numbers, not just strings." The students nodded, some scribbling notes, others slouching with practiced indifference. One, Tyler Brown, a lanky 17-year-old with a guarded stare, sat at the back, arms crossed. Tyler had been her biggest challenge, his skepticism a mirror of her old arrogance. "This is pointless," he'd said last month. "You're just some rich lady pretending to care." His words had stung, but Lauren saw herself in his defiance, a kid fighting to be seen, just as she'd fought for status. She handed out a case study on airline startups, her business acumen now a tool for teaching, not boasting. "Tyler," she called, "you're presenting first. Let's hear your pitch." The room quieted, all eyes on him. Tyler stood, his posture defiant, and launched into a half-baked idea for a budget airline. His numbers were off, his delivery brash, but his passion was undeniable. When he finished, he glared at Lauren, expecting criticism. "Solid start," she said, surprising him. "Your focus on affordability is smart, but your costs are unrealistic. Let's rework the fuel budget together." She walked him through a spreadsheet, her tone patient, drawing murmurs of approval from the class. Tyler hesitated, then nodded, a crack in his armor. "Fine," he muttered, sitting down, but his eyes held a flicker of respect. The session continued, students pitching ideas from drone delivery to eco-friendly jets. Lauren offered feedback with a precision honed in boardrooms, but her old condescension was gone, replaced by encouragement. She'd learned to listen, a skill her former self lacked. As the class ended, Tyler lingered, clutching his revised pitch. "Why do you do this?" he asked, his voice low. "You could be running some fancy company, not dealing with us." Lauren paused, the memory of Nathan's note surfacing. "I used to think fancy was everything," she said. "Then I met someone who showed me what matters. I was pretty awful, Tyler. I judged people who didn't look like me, and it cost me a lot. Now I'm here to help you avoid my mistakes." She shared a condensed version of her flight story mocking Nathan, the economy seat, the note. Tyler's eyes widened. "You got sent to economy? That's rough." "It was," Lauren laughed, the sound genuine, "but it woke me up." Tyler nodded, his guard lowering. "My pitch. Can you look at it again next week?" he asked. "Deal," Lauren said, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. Her phone buzzed as she packed up a text from Claire Thompson. "Robertson deal closed. Your statement on humility turned the board around. No layoffs?" Lauren exhaled, relief flooding her. After the scandal, she'd issued a public apology, admitting her arrogance and pledging to mentor youth. The honesty, risky but sincere, had swayed the board, saving her company and her team. Claire, once strained by Lauren's demands, now texted with warmth, a sign of their repaired dynamic. As Lauren locked the classroom, a familiar figure appeared in the hallway. Nathan Brooks, still in jeans and a t-shirt, his presence unassuming, yet commanding. "Nathan," she said, startled. "What are you doing here?" He smiled, his dark eyes kind. "Checking on the program. I heard you're making waves." He'd been a quiet supporter, never interfering but always aware. His faith in her a steady anchor. They walked to the center's small courtyard, where kids played basketball under a gray sky. "Tyler's pitch was rough, but he's got potential," Lauren said, her voice tinged with pride. Nathan nodded. "So do you. The program's expanding, and we're taking these kids to our Dubai engineering facility next month. They'll see how an airline runs hands-on. I'd like you to coordinate the trip." Lauren's breath caught. Coordinating meant leading, shaping young minds on a global stage. "I'd be honored," she said, her voice steady. Nathan handed her a folder. "There's more. The board's offering you a permanent role director of community engagement. Lower salary than your corporate gigs, but the impact's bigger. Think about it." She opened the folder, her eyes scanning the job description. Overseeing youth programs, developing scholarships, building futures. It was everything her old self would have scoffed at, but now it felt like purpose. "I don't need to think," she said. "I'm in." Nathan's smile widened. "I figured. You've changed lives here, Lauren including your own." Back at her penthouse that evening, Lauren sat at her desk, the folder beside a photo of her class. Tyler's revised pitch, emailed an hour ago, glowed on her laptop. She'd lost some clients post-scandal, but the Robertson deal's success had stabilized her firm, and her new focus on ethical leadership was drawing interest. She typed a reply to Tyler, offering detailed feedback, then opened her social media. Gone were the yacht party posts. Her posts now showcased student successes, a girl's scholarship, a boy's internship. The likes were fewer, but the messages, "You're inspiring my daughter," meant more. As she sipped tea, not champagne. Lauren looked out at London's skyline, its lights softer than Dubai's dazzle. 6 months ago, she'd been a prisoner of her own arrogance, chasing status in a first-class cabin. Now, she was building something real, one student at a time. Nathan's offer, Tyler's trust, and her own resilience had transformed her. She wasn't done learning, but she was ready for what came next: a trip to Dubai, a new role, and a life where class meant more than a seat number. The first-class cabin of Flight EK774 to Dubai shimmered with the same opulence Lauren Mitchell had once taken for granted. Polished wood paneling, plush leather seats, and the faint scent of fresh orchids. But as she sat in seat 12A, her navy blazer replaced by a simple cream blouse, Lauren felt no need to assert her place. A year had passed since her humiliating demotion on a similar flight, when she mocked Nathan Brooks, the airline's CEO, only to learn the cost of her arrogance. Now, at 43, she was a different woman, her heart full as she guided two students, Tyler Brown and Maya Carter, seated beside her. The teenagers, recipients of the airline's aviation scholarships, clutched their boarding passes, their eyes wide with wonder. Tyler, the once skeptical 17-year-old from her East London mentorship class, adjusted his new blazer, his lanky frame buzzing with nervous energy. "This is wild, Miss Mitchell," he said, peering at the privacy screen around his seat. "Never thought I'd be in first class." Maya, 16 and soft-spoken, nodded, her braided hair catching the cabin's soft light. "I keep thinking they'll send me back to economy," she admitted, clutching a notebook filled with sketches of aircraft designs. Lauren smiled, a warmth she'd once suppressed, now second nature. "You're exactly where you belong," she sighed, her voice steady. "This trip to the airline's Dubai engineering facility is your chance to shine." The students were part of Nathan Brooks' expanded youth program, which Lauren now led as Director of Community Engagement. Her decision to join, sparked by Nathan's note a year ago, had transformed her life and those of her students. This flight, a year to the day since her fall, was a full-circle moment. The cabin hummed with pre-takeoff rituals, flight attendants gliding with trays of champagne. Margaret Evans, now the airline's customer service manager, approached, her familiar warmth softened by pride. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, her name tag glinting, "it's good to see you back in first class under better circumstances." Lauren laughed, the sound genuine. "Thanks to you and Nathan. I wouldn't be here without that note." Margaret's eyes twinkled. "You earned this, and these kids, they're lucky to have you." Lauren handed Tyler and Maya the wine list. "Not for drinks, but as a teaching moment. Look at the descriptions," she said. "It's not about the price, it's about understanding choices." "That's business, too." Tyler grinned, reading aloud with mock sophistication, while Maya scribbled notes, her ambition palpable. Lauren caught Margaret's approving nod, a reminder of her own journey. A year ago, she'd mocked Nathan's wine order. Now, she was teaching kids to value substance over show. Her phone buzzed with a message from Claire Thompson, her assistant turned trusted partner. "Company stock up 5% since your community initiative launched. Board loves the new Lauren." The text brought a quiet pride. After Jessica Lee's article had nearly tanked her $200 million Robertson deal, Lauren's public apology and mentorship work had turned the tide, saving her firm and earning her respect. Her social media, once a gallery of yacht parties, now showcased student successes. Tyler's internship, Maya's scholarship, a girl's first flight as a trainee pilot. The likes were fewer, but the impact was immeasurable. As the plane climbed, Lauren glanced out the window. Dubai's skyline, a distant promise. She remembered her old self, the woman who'd sneered at Nathan's jeans, desperate to impress Edward Harrison. That Lauren had chased status, blind to the humanity around her. Now, she saw it everywhere. And Tyler's nervous grin, Maya's quiet determination, Margaret's rise from hardship. Nathan's program had given her a second chance. But it was her choice to embrace it, to face skeptical students, rebuild her firm, and redefine success. The lunch service began, and Lauren guided her students through the menu, explaining flavors with the patience she'd learned in the classroom. A young passenger across the aisle, a tech entrepreneur, recognized her from a recent TED Talk on ethical leadership. "You're Lauren Mitchell, right?" he asked. "Your work with those kids is inspiring." Tyler beamed, nudging Maya. "Told you she's a big deal." Lauren waved off the praise, her cheeks warm. "These two are the real stars," she said, deflecting to their achievements. Later, Nathan Brooks boarded during a brief stopover, his presence unassuming in jeans and a t-shirt. He greeted the crew by name, his ease a hallmark of the leader. Lauren now admired. "Lauren," he said, approaching her seat. The Dubai team's thrilled about the kids' visit. "Tyler, Maya, ready to see how we build planes?" Tyler nodded vigorously, while Maya clutched her notebook tighter, her eyes shining. "You didn't have to do this," Lauren said quietly, gesturing to the first-class seats. Nathan shrugged. "You've earned it. And these kids deserve to see what's possible." His words echoed his note, a reminder of the lesson that had changed her. True class lay in lifting others. As Nathan moved to greet other passengers, Lauren watched Tyler and Maya quiz Margaret about the cockpit, their confidence a testament to her mentorship. The flight landed in Dubai under a blazing sun, the students' excitement palpable as they stepped into the terminal. Lauren lingered, her eyes on a photo she'd kept on her phone, not of Monaco galas, but of her first class, Tyler's scowl softening into a smile. That moment, like this one, was proof that small acts, Nathan's note, a choice to teach, could ripple outward, changing lives. Standing in the terminal, Lauren looked at her students, ready to explore a world she'd once gatekept. She wasn't. The woman who'd boarded that fateful flight a year ago, chasing status in a gilded cage. She was Lauren Mitchell, mentor, leader, human, someone who'd learned that the truest luxury was helping others rise. Lauren Mitchell's journey is a testament to the transformative power of kindness and humility. Her fall from arrogance to redemption shows that small acts, Nathan's note, Margaret's encouragement, can spark profound change. The story celebrates second chances, revealing that even the most flawed can grow by embracing empathy. It underscores the strength of community, from Tyler's trust to Maya's dreams, proving we're defined by how we lift others. The lessons are timeless. True class isn't in wealth or status, but in actions that honor humanity. Lauren's shift from mocking Nathan to mentoring youth challenges us to rethink success, value substance over appearance, and offer grace to those who stumble. Her story reminds us that redemption is possible when we choose growth over pride. If Lauren's transformation moved you, join Legacy Stories for more tales of courage, kindness, and change. Subscribe to our channel to discover stories that inspire and remind us of the best in ourselves. Let's keep these legacies alive, one story at a time.